Hi, my name is Alexander Ings, and welcome to this mastering course with Production Music Live. I'm here in Duart Studios in Berlin-Mitte, and currently I'm sitting in Rüder Hagelstein's studio, who did the mix downs for the 2 tracks that we'll be mastering in this course. The way that I'd like to describe it is mastering is the last stop in the production process before it reaches distribution. So we have the opportunity to enhance or at least try and make the track sound as best as possible before it goes for online sales or potentially to the vinyl cutting engineer or streaming services such as Spotify, etc. So most importantly, I think mastering is or can be understood as also another set of ears to the mix engineer or to the artist who is delivering the tracks. And with this feedback loop, it's really an important thing to be able to maybe spot certain areas or certain places in the mix that can be improved on. And by just being in a different location with a not hearing the track before, not being so deep in this mix process that takes a lot longer and is a lot more in depth than the mastering process, you can hopefully quite easily spot some things that might have been missed and communicate that to the mix engineer or to the artist or whoever delivered the pre-master. And this ultimately at the end of the day makes for a better end result, which we are all aiming for. In mastering, we use tools such as EQs, compressors, limiters, clippers, sometimes a little bit of saturation. All of these tools help us to, like I said, enhance different aspects of the track. Maybe we can make it feel a little wider, maybe the highs aren't enough, and we can bring out some of the details there, or even do some finer work as doing a little bit of touching of de-essing on a vocal that might be poking through the mix. These are all the tools that we'll be using in this course. Firstly, using Ableton's stock plugins, which was a little bit new to me, but also quite fun and interesting. And then also using some of the tools that I use on a daily basis. As a mastering engineer, it's also important to understand that sometimes we need to do quite a lot, and sometimes we really don't need to do too much in order to get to the result that we're looking for. And this is really important, maybe when you're starting out, to understand that if the mix is good, there's no reason to maybe use this compressor that you might have heard some people hyping up before, just because you now have it or have the software for it. Being able to tell maybe if you use something and it's not actually enhancing the track, to be able to step back and say, hey, look, this is done already. This just comes with a bit of time and experience and confidence in what you're doing. So we've already touched on a few things about what we can and what maybe not to do in certain situations. But for example, if you receive a mix from a client for you to master, it's quite important to be able to spot problems and also find solutions for those problems. Some of them can be as simple as communicating them with the mix engineer or the artist or whoever delivered the pre-master. Some examples that I dealt with recently was that the track in question, it had a vocal. There was a little bit too many mids in the vocal that were kind of poking out in certain places, and I wanted to kind of enhance this area, but that vocal was kind of preventing me from doing that because that was also enhancing the problem. That meant that I communicated with the artist and asked them to just look out for these certain frequencies that were poking out, and also maybe reduce the volume of the snare a little bit, because this was a little bit crazy loud for me at the end of the day. But that doesn't mean that it's always the right decision, because the artist also has a vision. So certain things, for example, as like a pokey frequency might be a thing that I would try and deal with or communicate with the artist. But something, for example, if they want the snare to be super loud and abrasive, maybe that is their choice, and it's just a suggestion at the end of the day to try and in this case, it was trying to get the track as loud as possible, but the snare was kind of tried as hard as I could to kind of compress this area or to bring it down before getting that volume at the end of the day. It was still the area that felt like it needed some attention in the pre-master as opposed to the mastering process before I start putting it through the chain. So yeah, these were a couple of examples of problems and solutions. Maybe another one is if there's a vocal with a S that is poking out, that is something that I could deal with as long as there are not too many other frequencies in that area that are being affected by that. Being able to spot certain areas, maybe the kick drum is a little bit weak, we can boost that on our side. Or maybe the track doesn't have enough highs, we can do that on our side. Or certain areas, certain frequencies that are poking out, resonant frequencies, we can do that on our side. But when it comes to kind of fundamental areas or problematic areas that are difficult, don't be afraid to communicate that with the artist or the mix engineer, because ultimately that is going to lead to a better result at the end of the day, and that is what we are always looking for. One thing that we can use if you're starting out, or as an experienced mastering engineer, it is also always helpful, is using reference tracks. And that is picking a few of your favorite tracks, hopefully quite close in terms of style and genre to what you're working on. And we can use these in the same session to A/B or to flip between the two and see firstly maybe how loud the reference is, or what the overall frequency balance is, or for example how much sub does it have, how are the highs sitting, how wide is the track, in terms of like this idea of space or depth. And these are all things that we can touch on, or all things that can really help us in our process of getting what the music that we are working on to the best place it can possibly be. When I say using reference tracks, I don't think you should really aim for necessarily one reference in particular, because if you pull in a few different tracks from a few different artists, probably a few different mix engineers, probably a few different mastering engineers, you'll also notice how different these tracks are from one another. There's no one set standard of this is where things have to be. Like, music is really special in that way that it can be and is often always different, and that means that it's also exciting to deal with. But that also just suggests that there's no always like one perfect solution at the end of the day. You'll notice by using different references how different these tracks can be from one another. Again, it just comes with some time and with some experience when to know what to use and what you're aiming for. But using reference tracks is a really good way to kind of understand if you're at least in the ballpark of what you're aiming for in the particular genre. Okay, so all these points that I've touched on in this introduction, we'll be running through in greater detail or in depth when we move across to my mastering studio, which is just next door. So thanks, and looking forward to getting started. Where we'll be mastering the track Tides by Bound to Divide. It was mixed by Ruda Haugerstein, who's in the studio just next door to me, and who also did the mixing part of this course with PML. So we're going to dive straight into it. We've got our mastering chain, and first things first, let's give a listen through the track, see if we can identify what we'd like to do. Okay. So first things first, I just noticed that the first kick was missing a little bit of a transient. We can see Ableton has just rounded this waveform off, so it's a very quick thing to fix. So I might have the feeling that the clap might be quite present or quite loud. It might also just be a build-up of those frequencies in that area. There's also a lot of action happening with the shakers. I like the balance. I like how everything is fitting together. Nothing is sticking out in the sense where I would want to ask for a revision from the mix engineer. Or nothing yet, at least. But normally you'd know pretty quickly if something was not quite right. Maybe we could tighten up the low mids ever so slightly, but I really like how everything fits together here. Nice and smooth. That was good. Okay, nice. So it was just those, I don't know, 2 or 3 little points that I mentioned there, in terms of what I would like to deal with, or what I feel could be kind of taken care of. But I really liked how smooth the mix was feeling. Nothing was standing out as being something that I'd ask for a revision for, and it was just maybe a little bit too much attention on the clap, or that frequency range around about probably 3 or 4K or something like that, and maybe a little we can do a touch less on the lower mids, maybe just clean that up slightly. But yeah, that's kind of what I was feeling from the first listen through. And next step would be just to prepare this slightly. So we already took care of that fade at the front, which is just something that Ableton does. I think you can turn that feature off. I'm not normally mastering in Ableton, but that doesn't mean that you can't. So one thing I noticed here, we've got a large amount of blank space at the end of the track. So let's just take a listen here and see what we can trim off. Okay, so I mean, definitely we don't need that. Let's listen again. Okay, maybe a little bit more. Put a little fade there. Okay, cool. That seems good to me. And the start of the track, we start at the very first kick, and what I normally like to do is add in a little bit of silence before the first kick, and that means that when we have when our track gets played back on online broadcast platforms, for example, Spotify is kind of notorious for missing the transient of the first kick if your track starts immediately. So I normally suggest putting in a little bit of silence in before, just to negate for that. And let's set our in and out markers and go back to the start. And there we go. Now we are ready to start with our tools and how we'd like to begin. So first things first. First in our chain, we have the utility, and let's hit that bass mono and bring this down to somewhere just around 100 Hertz, maybe a little bit less, maybe 90. And that's just to touch on what we spoke about with making sure that our bass frequencies are nice or our sub frequencies are nice and centered. I'm not going to touch the stereo width just yet. I'm not going to touch this channel EQ yet either, because I don't feel like it's necessary. There's nothing so off that I feel like we need to deal with that. So let's deal with our first bit of EQing, which is our EQ8, and we've got the setup in mid-side mode. Right now we are in the mid mode, and we've also got this solid so we can hear what we're doing. We've got a bit of fundamental frequencies going on over here, but it might be useful to widen this Q slightly and to reduce a little bit of this. Maybe just a dB or 2, nothing crazy. Also, we have our low cut. Right now it's set to 10 Hertz. I mean, I don't see anything that is jumping around there yet. You can just put a 20 just for safety's sake. Although that might not be necessary. Next thing that I'd like to do is to have a look at these this clap that I thought was a little bit too present. So let's actually switch this into side mode, and let's see if we can find this. Yeah, it's somewhere around there. It's a bit of that shake on this side. So let's maybe reduce this by a dB or 2. Let's go for 2. See, also because we're dealing with the sides, I also see some information quite low down here. Maybe it would be a good idea to roll these off, and we're going to set this around about maybe 140, but we've got a very gentle slope going on. I mean, we can make this more extreme and make it I think there's a 48 dB curve. Right now I think this is set to 12, which is quite relaxed, and that's more what I'm worried about, being on the sides. Like anything below 100 is what I'm focusing on here. This just kind of tightens things up a little bit and puts a little bit more focus on the subs in the center. Okay, we good? It's all good. So right now we're just doing subtractive EQing. Let's A/B it. Okay. Nice. Let me just bring another 0.5 of a dB out there. So I mean 2.5 is quite a lot, but we're just dealing on the sides for now. Let me just widen that Q slightly. Remember, our ears are quite sensitive around this range. Okay, let's leave this at that and move on to our applying a bit of glue compression. Okay, I see our meter's already moving, and that might be because it's dealing with the whole frequency spectrum. So if we engage our sidechain EQ and move this up to ignore the kick drum, the bass, just see what happens. Let's also bring this down slightly, slightly shorter or faster release. Now we see we don't get as much movement here. Just shorten the attack slightly, get it a little tighter because we are ignoring the subs, or the subs and the bass. And let's bring this down until we get about maybe a dB or 2 of gain reduction. Okay, we already have our makeup gain doing an extra 2 here. Let's just loop a section of the track here. Okay, that's pretty cool. We've also got our soft clip engaged. That is just going to round the edges of any transients that are being kind of cut off in a more pleasing way. Hard clip would, or the opposite of soft clipping is hard clipping, and that gives a more aggressive kind of sound, which can be cool for drums, but maybe not in a mastering context. Okay, so we're doing about 2. I think that's alright. Maybe even just trying to reduce some of the peaks. Kind of everything seem a little bit more cohesive here. Okay, I like it. I like it. Multi-band. Do we need to use it? Maybe we can just touch. Oh, yeah, it's already doing something. Maybe we can just touch some of the peaks here. We've got just a 2-to-1 ratio set up on all three of the bands. We've got this dealing with just the sub of the kick, and we have our high frequencies starting at about, I don't know, 8k. Well, let's set it at about 8. Okay, so this, we can see it's already touches now and again. Maybe 0.5 of a dB, half a dB. Let's get this, okay, get the mids just to engage a little bit more. Maybe catch some of the synths and things that might poke out a little bit. But we're being very cautious here. Okay, and the highs. Okay, so very, very low ratios, and I just want to catch a couple of peaks before this gets into our limiting section. Let's have a listen to what's going on. Okay, that's pretty transparent. I like that. Don't really want to hear it doing too much, or hear it at all, really. Maybe just catch some of those mid peaks now and again. All right, good. See what's going on in our full chain. Cool. Okay, let's put this back into. Now let's leave it in stereo and just see if we can just sweeten things up slightly. So let's put this right at the top at 22k. Let's also make sure this is in oversampling mode, so the curve changes slightly when you put into oversampling mode, but more so it uses more processing power and processes the audio at a slightly higher, or at a higher rate. So this hopefully avoids any small artifacts that might appear in the digital domain. Okay, we've got this at 22k. Let's give it a boost of say 2, or let's go 3 dB. Maybe even 4, because we're right at the top here. So although 22k is right at the end, you can see the curve is pretty smooth here. What I would like to do is potentially compensate for that with setting up another shelf here, setting it pretty low, or set it up at 2.5k, and just maybe let's just notch this down by 1 dB. Just trying to make a little bit of space with the shakers. And come back to our stereo sweetening EQ at the end here. And remember, this is right at the top. I would not want to do 5 dB somewhere in the middle of the track. But since we're just dealing with the curve, you can see the curve actually starts around about 10k, even though we've got it's set at 22, which is the maximum with this EQ. Let's hear what it's doing. So just exciting those high frequencies a bit. And 5 is normally quite a lot, but I'm using it specifically in a certain way where it's dealing with a curve rather than just boosting something in the middle of the track by 5 dB, which is not advisable. We are mastering the second track mixed by Ruda Hagelstein. The track is by Bound to Divide. It's called Horizons. We can see Ruda has done a revision here, but this is the final mix that I've received to master. And we'll be mastering without the Ableton stock plugins today, and with plugins that I use on a regular basis. So, as always, we'd normally start by listening through the track and trying to identify what we'd like to do. So maybe we can start by just taking a listen through, or at least maybe skipping through some of the parts I've already listened through and discussed with Ruda. And maybe a good thing is also just to pull up my analyzer that I'm using here. It's by the company Adapter called Metric AB. And let's take a listen. So far, everything seems stable to me. Nothing is jumping out in a strange way, or in a way that I would feel like needs to be addressed. You can have a look at the stereo image. It's kind of what we kind of expect to see, with the kick and sub information being mono, and with the stereo spread getting wider as it goes along here, or as it gets to the higher frequencies. I do feel the lead sound is pretty dynamic. That lead sound too. So that lead sound that is playing now is the one that I was talking about. It's pretty dynamic. It's got quite a lot of mid or low mid information. It might need to be controlled a bit. We do see a little kind of scoop here around about, I don't know, 3, 4, 5, somewhere around there. Or starting at 2 maybe. And we might want to think about evening that out, but let's try out a few things and see what is working best in this scenario. Okay, just gonna very quickly skip to the end, just see how this track finishes. So before we begin, let's just trim the tail here, the ending of the track. This is also part of our job. Okay, it felt pretty natural. A little bit longer. There's a little bit of reverb there. Alright, so that's the end, and let's have a look at the beginning. Okay, so the export was done from the first kick. Got to watch out for any fades that might come in with Ableton. And like I mentioned in the previous mastering, part 3, I think it's a good idea to leave a little bit of silence before the track starts to avoid missing that transient of the first kick on some playback platforms, like for example SoundCloud. I think is quite notorious for missing that first kick, but it's a good bit of safety precaution just to be aware of that. So right now we've got our start and end point fixed. We can get into mastering. So we're gonna play the track again, and this time while we are playing it, we're gonna open up the first tool that I like to use, which is kind of a classic by Brainworks. We have some nice filters here. We can work in mid-side, and we have a couple of other interesting tools here, like dynamic EQ, which is quite cool for de-essing or dealing with particularly pokey hi-hats sometimes. So if we have a look at our analyzer again, I think we mentioned that we had this a little bit of stereo information sometimes down here. See if we can deal with that with this mono maker. Normally, I don't know, somewhere up to about 90, 100, somewhere around there. Normally a safe place to be. That seems to sort that out immediately. Fantastic. We can also look at increasing the stereo spread a little bit. I quite like this width tool here. A lot of people seem to overuse it. I think it's generally sounding kind of cool, around about 20 or 30% or something like that. So nothing too crazy, nothing that if we bypass it, it should sound like things are drastically different, but it should sound more spacious. Definitely seems more exciting, which is good. Kind of lifts up the higher frequencies in the sides and gives a nice depth to the track. I'm quite happy with that. Also, just for safety, for safety's sake, we have this filter on just the sides, where we can just if there is any lower frequencies happening here, rolling off Some people like to go as high as 140. I'm not really hearing anything that is disturbing me too much here, so I think around about like maybe 100, I don't know, 120 would just be a safe option. Let's have a look here again. Alright, we don't have too much stereo happening. Only up until about 200 does it start to get really get some width. So I think everything we've done so far is pretty safe. Nothing too crazy. Don't have to worry about the loudness just yet. But that is a topic of conversation that will come up a little bit later in this, in the chain here. Also have this low pass or high pass filter. Well, I mean, we don't see anything crazy happening in the subs here below 20, but I mean, if anything is jumping out there, we can engage that. But since it's not, I don't think there's too much reason to have it on for the moment. Nothing I've heard has bothered me so far. Okay, we have the back CQ. I'm not hearing the balance being so off that need to be tilted, so I'm gonna leave that off for now. Next thing I like to do is just touch the master with a bit of multi-band compression, and this is mainly just to deal with what we mentioned earlier with this lead that is playing now in the lower mids. And the way that I like to use this is to set up the bands to, first and foremost, the low band, just to deal with kind of the fundamental of the kick really, and the subs. Then we have this wider band which deals with the mids and lower mids. Well, lower mids up to about 800. I like to put the second cutoff somewhere around about there. And let's play the track in a busy section just so we know where things are. And right now we've also got the setup in mid-side, by the way, so we're dealing with the mid frequencies right now, and then we can have a look at the sides. Okay, low band is barely touching. I'm gonna just pull these down just to deal with just really the transients, just to see if there's any peaks going over the top. Okay, we're just touching that one there. I actually want to get a little bit of compression going on this low mid band to have a bit of more control over this. You can listen to it here. This lead exactly. Let's have a listen in a different section of the track. Cool. Got a little bit more control happening there. This one, I feel like, no, this frequency range. Again, how much reduction am I doing here? Not even really a dB. Not about a dB. Just for anything that is jumping out over this constant level. Okay, let's have a listen back. Alright, here we're just going to touch it as well, with a slightly longer attack and release time for this band, slightly. And here again, we're just going to touch it. You can see it's barely just touching the tops of the transients to allow for a little bit more volume along the way down. Okay, nice. So now I think we should deal with the sides. You do hear quite a lot of stuff bouncing around there. So let's have a look. Okay, we don't have much to deal with there in the sub. Really nothing to worry about. We've also got our filters engaged. I like to set up something similar going on the sides, but mainly just for some kind of safety control. If anything is bouncing around, I also don't really like to do too much here. There we could see. Yeah, more in those kind of moments, I think it's just helping to hold the track together a little bit more. I mean, we could also increase the gain here, which would make it feel more spacious in this range, but it's not really something that I'd like to do, at least at the moment. More initial impressions. Okay, next band. Really barely going to touch this. Alright. So we also spoke about this like little dip that we saw. I mean, quite often we're going for the most balanced kind of look would be kind of a gentle slope downwards that kind of rounds off quite smoothly or quite naturally. And we spoke about this the slight dip that we noticed here. So of course there are many EQs that you can choose to use. I personally like this one from Kniff, or from Brainworks, modeled on a Kniff Soma mastering EQ. And let's have a look. Maybe we said around about 3K, I think it was. And let's just have a look if we give a boost of 1.5. I like this EQ because also the steps are on 0.5 of a dB, and that gives us slightly more control. So let's check what that's doing. I like it. We're giving some bit of presence to the mid range. Might want to give a slightly wider Q on this, just to bring out a little bit more frequencies, not be so specific with it. Alright. And just to help that curve a little bit more, let's have a look at it's like 2.7 somewhere on there, I think. But that is looking a little bit smoother. And this over here, let's just see if we can just balance that out a little bit more, and see if that sounds pleasing to our ears. So again, another 1.5, just bringing it down there. Let's have a listen to what this sounds like. We're also using this in stereo mode. You can do it in mid-side, but right now we're doing stereo. Okay, I think a slightly narrower Q here would be be a good idea. Cool. And let's just loop this section. So if we're looping a section, I would definitely recommend looping the loudest portion of the track with the most stuff going on. So that is where all your compressors or processing tools are working the hardest, which would mean that the rest of the track would feel a bit more dynamic, and this would be the most intense section. Okay, so I'm pretty happy with these moves that we made here. I still don't want to really touch the lows or the super or the like kind of the super highs just yet, because there are other tools available to use. Let's have a look at the next thing that I'm using here, which I quite like to use very subtly in parallel. Okay, well, we just switched it on, and I think my default is kind of set with everything quite cranked, to be honest. So we're getting some saturation from this. We're also getting a lot of gain reduction here, but the kicker is I'm using it at 2%. So what I actually like this, what I actually like to use this for is sometimes in the breaks where things get quite quiet. This seems to bring up, by using it in parallel, bring up the kind of the low level volume stuff to be a little bit more present, and this can fill out breaks quite nicely. So I mean, listen. I like what it's doing here. Let's take another listen. Just as it comes into this break, you can A/B it or bypass it and see if we like what it's doing. I like it even at 2%. It seems to be working. It's making everything feel a little bit more important. All right. So next up, let's have a look at this EQ that I like to use. I quite like to use this the shelf for reducing high frequencies if there's something that's not kind of popping. I don't know, if there's something that is popping out too much. In general, in the high frequency range, I quite like to use this the shelf sometimes. Otherwise, I really like this airband. I like to use it on 40K, and although that's way above our perceived hearing, it's about this shelf and about this curve, so it's actually picking up frequencies below that. And if we have a look here, I mean, this is looking pretty good, but even from kind of like 9K, it's kind of starting to roll. I'd like to even that out a little bit more. Well, that's what I'm hearing anyway. So let's try using quite a lot, because it's starting to, the curve is starting at targeting 40, means that this is hopefully going to smooth things out in this whole range, give that kind of fairy dust that people like to refer to. I mean, it is definitely exciting, the highs in general, but I'm enjoying it. That is doing quite a lot. can back it off slightly, maybe about a dB for now. That's a little bit more subtle. We could possibly come back to that if we feel like it's necessary. I mean, I was enjoying it, that's for sure. Okay, so let's have a look what's next. So next we've got our first limiter, and it's the Pro L2 from FabFilter, and I think this is just set up in its default. The way that I like to use it, I'm not going to use True Peak now, we do have a second limiter. Let's hit it with a little bit of oversampling, process at a slightly higher rate. This all-round mode is pretty good, and I'm going to bring the channel link release and the transients down to around about 30. I kind of like those to be sitting somewhere around there. And then let's give some gain. I'm going to just nudge my headphones down slightly. Kind of the loudest section. Oh, it is the loudest section of the track. Okay, we hit a 2 there. 2.3. I'm gonna back this off slightly. It's a 3.7. Okay, we're gonna back this off. So what I'm doing is I'm getting some initial volume. I'm trying just to catch some initial peaks here. And then let's move on to our second limiter. Let's also just see what's happening here in terms of what loudness we have. Okay, so right now we're on about minus 11.7, which is definitely loud enough for Spotify, but I've got a feeling that this isn't going to be the only place that this track was intended to be played. So let's try and get a bit of extra volume and get something that is more appropriate for playing in clubs or playing along other side or playing along other types of or similar types of dance music. Right. So we have our second limiter here, which gives us 2 dB immediately. I'm just gonna turn that off for now. I quite like there's 2 modes here that I like. I like this IRC 3 in balanced. I also like IRC 4 in transient. And let's pull this down a little. Remember, this is the loudest part of the track, so this is where things are going to be most apparent when we apply our limiting. Okay, we're getting closer. We're at like minus 9.5. Another dB would be cool. Get around about minus 9, possibly minus 8.5, somewhere around there. This is also something quite important to be aware of, is our true peak reading, and we don't want to see this number being above 0. I personally feel more comfortable around about like minus 0.4, somewhere around there. Some people like to hit a true peak of minus 1. That is very safe. But often when dealing with house and techno, the focus is generally a little bit more on the clubs than it is for online streaming and that kind of thing. So here's where we can enable our True Peak limiter and bring the ceiling down to around about minus 0.4, and just have a look what's going on here now. That's right, we shouldn't see anything go above minus 0.4 now. Let's go to the loud portion of the track. Alright, good. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with how this is sounding so far. Okay, we're hitting about 2 dB on our second limiter. And here you can see we spoke about our RMS reading as opposed to our LFS reading. Okay, so we did notice this quite loud lead in the brake section. This is cool. Remove what we're not using. Okay, so one more plugin I'd actually like to add in here. Just after a couple of our processes is Soothe 2, and what this does is it is a dynamic EQ of sorts. This is how it opens up, and basically what it does, it removes resonant frequencies in a very intelligent way. So basically what I'm doing now, we just open it up on the default. I just like to move these bands around. I don't want to deal with anything that might touch the kick or the subs, so let's keep that somewhere safe. And let's also just lower the depth so it's not working so hard. And let's play that section again with the loud lead. Okay, so we can see here, this is we're gonna see how much it's working. Maybe we can back this off a little bit more. So there's two things I would like this to deal with. One is that the low lead that was giving us quite a lot of low mids, the more Rhodesy EPNO sounding one, which I feel is somewhere around this range here. And any other resonances we can just use to pick up. And here we can listen to what it's actually doing. That is how low. Our kind of lower mid lead that is over here around about 400. And we can hear kind of the other swishy stuff that is just barely being touched. But I like this as a kind of a safety net. Catch a hold of any nasty things that might be poking out. Okay, we're still at minus 9.5. Okay, so if we're really trying to fight for that volume, we can have a look at one more plugin, which is... Oh, we can experiment with using a clipper, let's put it that way. And we can use this one from Acoustica, or try it. Again, we're going to put it into oversampling, and I would be careful with clippers, and I don't really like to do more than a half to maybe 1 dB of clipping, and we might just have to readjust a couple of our limiters so everything would be working right. Okay, so I'd actually like to back this off a bit so it's not doing too much. Okay, now it's really actually not doing anything. So there we go. Okay, so I just wanted to start touching some peaks. It's about 1 dB. So okay, just back off slightly, and let's have a look at our clipper. So here's 1 dB here with our clipper. And that's what I said. We just wanted to try and get to the ceiling at 0. We will have this on softney. I don't really want to see this doing more than 1. Now we can come to our this maximizer. Maybe let's just push this slightly more. Get this just to touch the 1. There we go. And by the way, just so you can hear what it's doing, the more you push this, let's go back to the loud section of the track. There you can hear things starting to distort, but I like to be a long way away from that. Just about 1 dB. And now we have a little bit more extra room. And now let's have a look. Back to our loudest portion of the track. Okay, we got about another half a dB there. We're still fighting for that extra, well, that last half to get it to kind of minus 8.5. Although I feel like this track is very comfortable at minus 9. Get it from the first limiter. Okay, we're right here at minus 9. So now we start to see an 8 here and there. Got our short term, our integrated. Alright, there's our 8.5, 8.4. If it really needs to go that loud, we can get there. Okay, so in this scenario, what I might do is send two versions of this master. One being kind of maximum volume, or as maximum where I feel it can go, and the second one would be slightly more laid back, have a bit more dynamics in the master, and have those as two options. More often than not, the client likes to choose the louder version, but I feel like it's important to be able to at least give an option. So yeah, that is about it for the moment. What I'd probably next do is I'd probably bounce these out and definitely check on, well, probably work on these with my studio monitors and not solely on headphones, and give this maybe a listen in a different scenario, and also use some reference tracks, quite possibly, and then that would kind of be it for now. Maybe I'd go back and make one or two tweaks. If I master this late in the day, then I'd probably check it before sending it in the morning, because your ears can get fatigued if you are doing a lot of work throughout the day. But yeah, I'm quite pleased with how this one turned out. Remember, we just have to double check that our markers are in the right place. Okay, that's good. So let's set our marker there and go back to the start. Make sure that we have a little bit of space before our first kick, as we discussed. All right, we can switch it off. We have our okay, we're gonna have to edit this out. Okay, well, there it is working. Haven't seen that before, but at the same time, I'm not mastering in Ableton on my daily mastering tasks. So there we go. Everything looks good, and now we can go ahead and export the master. Remember, we mentioned for dithering, because we have dithering taking place, as far as I remember, in our mastering, in our Ozone mastering limiter. We can take that off there and hit export. So I hope you enjoyed this final part of the PML mastering course, and I wish you all the best for your own masters and for your future projects. Thanks and goodbye. Ciao. All right, we are back here for an extra part, which is dealing with revisions. And what I did was I took a moment and then listened to the two tracks after mastering them on headphones on my studio monitors, and noticed one or two things that I would like to make changes to. And this is also extremely normal. If you are really working on a lot of music, be sure to give your ears a break, and also be sure to check on different playback and monitoring systems before making a final call with something that you care about. So what I've done here is I've brought in the two tracks, one mastered just with the stock Ableton plugins, and the second one we've got here mastered with some tools that I use regularly, or some plugins that I use regularly. And now we can deal with referencing and seeing if they're both in a similar place. One thing that I noticed, if we start actually with the second track, was although I already had pulled out some of this like frequency around about 6K or something like that. Where's my EQ here? I think we just pulled out like a dB and a half. I did an extra dB and a half because I felt like the build up there was quite a lot. We can, if I play a section for you here. I was liking how the master was sounding, but I'm just gonna boost it so you can hear exactly what I'm talking about. That kind of like a little bit annoying. Anyway, I think we pulled it down to about 3. That just gave a bit of a smoother response. Just felt a little bit annoying when listening to it, listening back on the monitors. I'm quite sure that was the only thing that I did. I think we can also push an extra half dB here, just because everybody loves their tracks to be loud. But I'm also very conservative when it comes to limiting and clipping. Nothing really goes over 1.5 dB, at least with limiting, and clipping not over 1 dB. Now let's check what's happening in our other track, if we flip between the two. A slightly different style, to be honest. Like, this one's definitely more laid back. This one's definitely more driving. Also sounds a little bit tighter, which is I mean, subjective, but I mean, they are in a relatively similar place. I think the only thing that I did here was maybe just a little bit more attention. It was like, maybe it was, I don't know, half a dB, around about, what was that, 11K, well, yeah, somewhere around 10 or 11. Just bring up those highs a little bit more, just bring a little bit more excitement into the mix. I feel like the kick is a little bit more prominent in this, but like, I don't know if I would say that this track needs to have such a banging kick for the style that it is, and I was quite happy to leave this where it was. Let's just flick again, a little bit closer to the end, and AB again. Yeah, I mean, this track I was quite relaxed with. Well, in terms of any further changes, I mean, we are also using limited tools here, but nevertheless, I think it came out sounding fine. And the other one, there is more just that frequency at like around about 6.7K that felt like there's a bit of a build up there. But definitely a different style of track. You can hear it with and without the EQ. Just being the EQ. I think it smooths things out a bit. I like it. Okay. So that was kind of it when it comes to the revisions, and final touches are always important, and listening on different monitoring systems. So now I'm ready to, I think, give one more listen on the monitors. Hopefully there are no further little things that I hear that might need a tweak or two, but I would bounce these out, and then it's time to receive feedback from the artist or the client or the artist or the music A&R or whoever thinks it's their job to make the decision on the music at the end of the day. All right, so I hope that you learned something, and hope this gives a better idea into what we are doing as in the world of mastering. And I wish you all the best. Thanks, and goodbye.